She's a wonderful storyteller. Will you please welcome Debi Hall?
Okay, thanks, Dan. All right. This story is entitled A Piercing Silence. Not much terrifies me, not much at all. In fact, I can count on one hand the number of times in my life I've actually been frightened. This is the story of one of those incidents, an adventure that scared the living crap out of me. It was the Hallows Eve of my 9th year, and we had just moved to Alaska. Our long street, far from Anchorage city center, housed a dozen families in huge split-level houses. At the end of the street was a wooded forest that extended to the Chugach Mountains with a single blaze trail that cut through to the university and the dormitories. It was there that the harrowing events took place. That Halloween, I was perhaps the cutest little bumblebee on the planet. Off the 6 of us went into the dark of night to trick and treat. I made the mistake of leaving the group for a second, and when I returned, not a soul in sight. The entire street had, it seemed, been abandoned. No need to panic, think. That's right. We had all agreed that we would trek through the woods to the campus and hit up people in the dormitory for treats. It wasn't that far, maybe a quarter of a mile, and it wasn't that cold, yet. I ran up the street and set foot on the path that wound through the dense forest. Not a noise. I walked a little further and then stopped. Nothing. In the woods, deep into the thick of quaking aspen and balsam poplars, there was only the echo of the light Arctic breeze whipping through the barren branches of the paper birch trees, as though a chorus of butterflies was fluttering through the forest. To where? My attention turned when suddenly, in the still of the night, a sound. It was not the usual animal hooves or even human footsteps. It was the heavy tread of something, loud and determined. I stood frozen. I dared not look around, for this was not the youthful gait of my friends. It was something else, a heavy march that pounded the snowy ground upon impact, and then the movement stopped. There it was, the deafening silence of the woods. No light save the blue snow reflection of the full harvest moon, and in the moment the air was attacked by the sound of breathing. Slow, steady breathing, but not human. It was a low, guttural sound, the panting of sorts, as though from some unearthly creature come up to the surface from far beneath the new-fallen snow. I put my hand over my mouth as the huffing became louder, a hushed gurgle as if the creature were drooling as it approached. And then, beneath the exhalations, a low murmur. What was it? What was it saying? A guttural hum deep from within the heartbeat of the creature, as if beckoning my spirit to yield to its unearthly demands. I could feel the cold on my eyes as they widened in abject terror. A pause. I could hear in the far distance the sound of my friends laughing. But where were they? And then the laughter stopped. Always, always, the nearing inhalation of the creature behind me. Suddenly the air was pierced by a shrill, blood-curdling scream from the far distance. Instinctively I yelled out, "Sherry!" But then, as instantly as it had occurred, just so suddenly did the shriek stop. Did that happen? I doubted my own sensibilities. Impulsively I ran off the trail and into the woods, heading toward what I did not know. I ran and ran through the trees, wading through the deep snow, barely aware of the freezing cold of the plummeting temperature. My own breathing was labored and panting, struggling to escape certain death. I passed clusters of trees. Were those the same jack pine trees I just passed? Where was I? As I paused there alone in the vast wilderness, lost beyond all hope, I realized something profound. This, I thought, is what it truly is like to be scared to death. I listened with what little ability I had left, and in the distance behind me I could hear it, fainter now than it had been, the creature. At least I had gained some distance from it, or so I hoped. Then in front of me, a giant blue spruce with sweeping branches that dusted the ground like a flowing evening gown. I backed up to the tree, covering my tracks as I went. Quietly I crawled under the tree. It was dark and warm, nestled in the giant undergrowth. I could not see anything but snow-covered needles. I did not know what was coming because all I could hear was my own breath echoing through all my senses. A brief silence, then the creature. Premeditated, steady, relentless as it neared. I could hear its movement pushing through the snow, louder and louder until it came to a stop at the edge of the tree. I was certain it could hear me move, stifle screams, gasp. The breathing turned to laughter, sinister, menacing amusement. It had me cornered, and it knew that I had nowhere left to run. My wild eyes darted left and then right with a new, familiar noise shook the earth. It was a bear. the panting of an Alaskan brown bear. The creature held its breath for a second, and I heard it move in the snow. Then a flurry of running combined with the thud of the approaching bear. The creature was gone. The bear remained. I could hear him moving quietly left and then right, undaunted by the snow, sniffing, ever sniffing. I parted the low branches slightly so I could see a bit of the scene, nearing my eye to the blue light that sifted through the powdered branch. My only view was the bright pink nose of the bear, sniffing. I held my breath and moved back under the branches. The bear's mouth opened and I could see the pink mouth, the teeth, the saliva. He moved back and quietly stalked away through the woods in search of more tasty morsels. I must have drifted off because the next thing I heard were human sounds, a flashlight and the roar of my father traipsing through the snow and calling my name. That was the last time I went through those woods at night, but it is still to this day that when I find myself in the dark of night in a snowy woods, I get a lump in my throat and feel the quickening heartbeat of panic, because I know there is no silence. There is no place I can go to escape the inevitable sound. Is it alive or just beneath the surface of the earth, human or from a creature beyond the howling moon? It is always there, breaking all peace and threatening all life forms. It breathes.
Debi Hall and a not so gentle band.